The question is that the motion be agreed to. Jonathan Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And perhaps I could just address some of the introductory comments of the mover of this bill when he talked about how the bill previously under the name of Darren Fenton went to the Industrial Relations Committee and they improved it, as he said. I'm sure there were some elements which they did work on, but, sir, the report from that committee on the bill at that point in time said the committee was unable to reach agreement that the bill should be passed. So I believe, sir, that the committee at that particular point in time identified some real complexities on why this bill would not work. In fact, if you think about it, as the honourable member mentioned how he drafted the bill, as we think about it, sir, as the honourable member said, he drafted the bill and passed it on to Honourable Darren Fenton to bring it to the House as a member's bill. At that particular point in time, of course, they were the governing party. And so we have a governing party who proposed a bill that went to a committee which we assume they would have had a majority on that could not get it through the committee. And certainly, all right, certainly I would say that at that point in time, if the member who drafted the bill thought it was such a great bill, why did he not make it a government bill? Why did he not take it to this House as a government bill, but instead pass it on to his colleague? Sir, because I believe that they would have received advice, as we've received advice, that this, sir, is another one of the Honourable David Parker's very complex but unworkable bills. Just as New Zealand Power was, just as he tried to persuade New Zealanders last year on a phantom promise of $300 reduction in their power supply costs, and when the industry asked for the means by which that could be demonstrated, they couldn't. Sir, we have a bill here that is proposing an answer to people who are in difficult situations, some of our lowest wage earners. And I believe, sir, it's another phantom promise. It's a promise, sir, that will not be able to be workable. And, sir, now, as Mr. Parker has said, I understand now the intent of this bill. The intent of this bill is to make them look good and us look bad. That's what it is. That's all it is. All it is, sir, is political propaganda. Here is this party who, in their time of office, of 9 years of surplus after surplus after surplus, do you know, sir, the average minimum wage increased by 56 cents a year? And as soon as we came into office and they were in opposition, guess what they pushed for? A $3 jump. Why didn't they do it in 2007, 2008? It is because, sir, all they are intent on doing in these sorts of legislations is push out political propaganda. We are the party who, for the first time in 42 years, increased the benefit. We are the party who did that, yet they are the party who claim to be the caring and sharing party. And, sir, we know that Dr. Cullen on Q&A on Sunday said we should have done more. We should have done more. It's because, sir, they really didn't want to. What this country needs and has is a plan that is working. Sir, this government's economic plan over the last 7 years has laid strong foundations.
Order.
Sir.
I'm just going to invite the member to address this bill. We did have a general debate this afternoon, but we have a specific piece of legislation before the House now, and it'd be good if we got to it.
Yes, thank you, sir. But often, if I could speak to your point...
No, you can't, Mr. Young.
So often, if I could say that often in terms of addressing the value of a piece of legislation, you have to look at the alternatives. And the alternatives, sir, in terms of what we are doing for the lowest income people is significant. And so what they are doing, what they're proposing to do is unworkable. There is a great proverb which I think Mr. Parker needs to understand, and that is the cleanliness of theory is no match for the mess of reality. And, sir, this particular piece of legislation is very difficult. The intent I understand, and I think we appreciate the intent.
You blocked it.
The committee was unable to reach agreement that the bill should be passed. The difficulty in applying minimum wage calculations to contracting situations. These are just some of the comments that the previous committee reported back to the House of Parliament. The bill blurs the distinction between a contract for services, an independent contract, and a contract of services, which is an employment contract. For example, sir, let's say that I was going to build a house, because in your schedule, Mr. Parker, you put the building industry in there as one of the, I guess, most vulnerable workforces in the country, because that's what you've said. So I would say to a contractor, then I want you to build this house, and I want you to give me a price, and he gives me a price, but then he gets rained off. And so, but he decides, but then he decides that what he's going to do, he's going to go on the site and he's going to wait for that rain to break, and then he's going to be there on site ready to work. The question is, well, let's say somebody's going to paint a wall or paint a fence, all right? And then he gets rained off, and you've already agreed a price for a certain job to do, all right? And then...
Order. This debate is interrupted and set down for resumption next sitting day. The House stands adjourned until 2 p.m. tomorrow.